Hey there. When we think about getting paid, we usually think about cash, right? A salary, a bonus. But what if the biggest thing you bring to the table isn't your time, but your idea, your expertise? Today, we're diving into something called sweat equity, a really powerful way to reward the kind of contributions that go way beyond a simple paycheck.
It's a really cool question, isn't it? Can an idea actually be worth more than cold, hard cash? This is the central puzzle we're tackling. Think about a startup that's got a world-changing vision, but not a lot of money in the bank. How do you reward the people whose brain power is literally building the company from scratch? Well, that's where sweat equity comes into play.
Okay, so first things first, what is sweat equity? The name itself kind of gives it away. It's all about getting ownership, a real piece of the company, in exchange for all that hard work, the sweat you've poured into it. It's literally about getting a slice of the pie that you helped bake.
Okay, let's put on our legal hats for just a second and get a bit more precise. This is the official definition. The phrases to really focus on here are at a discount or for non-cash consideration. This is the core of it. We're not talking about buying shares with money. We're talking about earning them with your contribution.
So let's really pull that definition apart. Who's it for? Directors or employees? What's it for? Valuable things that aren't cash. We're talking about know-how, intellectual property, maybe a game-changing patent. And crucially, what rights do you get? Well, these aren't some kind of second-class shares. They rank pari passu, which is just a fancy legal way of saying they're on totally equal footing with the exact same rights as any other shareholder.
All right, so as you can probably guess, a company can't just start handing out shares like candy. There's a formal process, a set of rules of the game to make sure everything is above board. So let's dig into the key conditions a company has to meet. So the law lays out three big hurdles, mainly to protect the existing shareholders. First, it requires a special resolution. That's not just a simple majority vote. It's a supermajority, so it's a big deal. Second, the company can't be brand new. It has to have been up and running for at least 1 year. And finally, you need total transparency. The resolution has to spell out exactly who's getting the shares, how many, and at what value.
And this little diagram here shows the two main ways a company can actually do this. You've got the direct route, which is pretty much what it sounds like. Shares go straight from the company to the employee. Simple. The other path involves a dedicated employee welfare trust. You can think of it as a middleman that manages the shares on behalf of the employees. You see this a lot more in bigger, more established companies.
This brings us to what I think is the most fascinating part of this whole topic. We know sweat equity is for directors or employees, right? But that simple phrase, well, it hides a really cool legal puzzle. So who really qualifies to get a slice of this pie?
Yeah, so who exactly counts as an employee here? It seems like such an obvious question, but trust me, the legal definition is way, way broader than you might think, and it creates this incredible paradox when it comes to one very specific type of director.
Okay, get this. The rules say an employee can be a permanent employee who's been there a year or someone at a subsidiary. But look at that last point. This is the kicker. It includes a director of the company, whether a whole-time director or not. The rules are crystal clear. Any director is included, and that means independent directors too. And that's where our problem starts.
And here we are, the big dilemma. It's this paradox sitting right at the heart of corporate governance. You've got one rule saying one thing, and a fundamental principle of how companies should be run screaming the exact opposite.
Just look at this. On one side, can an independent director be offered sweat equity? Well, based on the rule we just saw, the answer is a clear yes. But here's the twist. Can they actually accept it? And the answer there is a hard no. Why? Because accepting it would literally destroy the very thing that makes them independent in the first place. So what gives? Why the contradiction? The whole answer hangs on this one term, pecuniary relationship. See, an independent director, by their very definition, cannot have a significant financial tie to the company other than their director's fees. Their entire job is to be objective, to be an outside voice. Any other financial stake could totally compromise that. And this quote from Tax Guru just nails it. Owning shares in the company is a pecuniary relationship. It's the textbook definition. Suddenly, your personal finances are tied directly to how well the company does, and that can really cloud your judgment. So here's the bottom line. While the rules for sweat equity technically allow the company to offer the shares, the much bigger rules of corporate governance and director independence slam the door on them ever accepting. If an independent director took those shares, they would immediately be disqualified from their own job. So what does this all mean? What can we learn from this weird clash in the rules?
Well, it actually tells us something really important about how corporate law works. It's not just a checklist of do's and don'ts, it's a whole system built on principles. This table makes the distinction super clear. With sweat equity, independent directors are technically eligible to get an offer, but they can't say yes because it creates that pecuniary relationship we talked about. Now look at ESOPs, employee stock options. In that case, the law is way more direct. It just flat out says they're ineligible. See? Both paths lead to the same result, no stock for independent directors, but the legal why is a little different.
And that right there is the big takeaway. This isn't some legal typo or a loophole. It's a perfect example of a core principle. In this case, the independence of a company's board being protected at all costs. The principle of good governance has to win out. So as we wrap this up, it kind of leaves us with this final thought, right? This idea goes way beyond just corporate law. Think about it. In any system, what other rules do you see that aren't just there to be followed, but are actually there to protect some deeper, more vital principle? It's a pretty interesting lens to look at the world through. Thanks so much for tuning in.